Welcome back to Orion Talk Radio. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to continue the show now. I've got a special guest with me, Andrew Demeter, who is from Press for Truth. As I said, pressfortruth.ca, Dan Dix, and the good work that they've been doing out there for a while. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been seeing your videos, going across my feed now for a while. I see that you're gaining some traction, and for one, let's get into what is the most astounding thing to some people once they see your work is that you're 15 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, man. Well, let's give everybody a little bit of background on yourself. How did a 15-year-old here in today's world, when most 15-year-olds are playing video games or just distracting themselves with whatever, and also just kind of caught up in being kids, how did you get to the point where you are now, where you're now producing your own content and putting out well-informed videos?
Well, yeah, like you said, I actually used to be a victim of the distraction of video games and all that, but I transitioned from that this past summer. So now about 8 months ago, I was at one of my friends. We were just going through YouTube and whatever, and we came across a Jesse Ventura True TV episode called The Denver Airport, or that's what it was about. And it just kind of showed how there were all these ominous signs and kind of clues left behind at the Denver airport, kind of implying from this elite body, the 1% and everything. And what that theory is valid or not, however you want to perceive it, I think that was kind of one thing that I can really concretely recollect that kind of got me thinking on this whole outside-of-the-box train of thought. So definitely Jesse Ventura was a big influence, also Alex Jones. I know he's a very controversial figure, but he definitely gets you thinking. You know, he definitely captures the essence and spirit of the liberty movement, and he's just a great character in my mind that has really got me on this whole liberty movement.
You know, I think, like you said, he's a controversial figure. Jesse Ventura, some of these names you've thrown out there. But what I love is to hear what inspires everybody, because we all have our own personal journeys. You know, I'm talking to you from Houston, Texas, way down south from where you are. I've met activists from Denmark, from London, from Germany, Australia, all over the world. And everybody's got their own unique story of what brought them to this current point. So you and your friends are watching some YouTube videos. You hear about Jesse Ventura. You hear some Alex Jones. And, you know, did it just spiral out from there? What got you to the point of action?
What got me to the point of action was after I started seeing this content and just thinking about it, I was like, wow, I really need to spread the word about this. It's just so incredible. I can't see how people are missing this stuff right before their eyes. So what I started doing was I started posting on Facebook, posting my political findings and such, and that gained a lot of controversy as well. During the State of the Union, that was another thing that I could really concretely recollect. During that, I was posting all these things, my thoughts on what President Obama at the time was saying, and that got some people thinking, definitely more engaged in the movement. But what really influenced me, another thing was during that State of the Union, actually, Obama was talking about the debt and everything and how far down in the hole we are. So I was thinking, I was like, oh, well, why don't we just make more money, print more money? And then I kind of got hit with the hard fact of reality that would obviously cause inflation. And I started talking to my, at the time, 8th grade social studies teacher, and she kind of enlightened me on a few things. She wasn't necessarily kind of like an off-the-track political ideology, I guess. Like I couldn't really necessarily define whether she was Republican or Democrat, but she definitely wasn't one of the outside-the-box thinkers necessarily. But she definitely enlightened me on some political things as well.
So you've got influence coming in, and that's, you know, I think that it's just unique to take this slice of how it brought us all to a place of action, you know, because as I said, we've all got our own stories, and the people that we look up to it's a trip to end up working next to those people or to be right alongside, and it really is the idea that action is the best thing to do. That you can read about these things, you can watch YouTube videos, you can watch the documentaries, and you can stay afraid for as long as you choose to be, but eventually we have to move towards a place of action, which is why I love what you're doing, man, because it's very inspiring. I have a 15-year-old brother myself who I plan to show your videos, to show them, like, to show him not in the sense of like, hey, you should be doing this, but just to be like, look at what you can accomplish at your age, you know, because I'm 28 now and I've been awake, so to speak, for maybe 10 years or so, but in the past 3 years of starting the Houston Freethinkers and actually taking it to a place of action, and as I'm sure you've seen, when you take that first step, it changes everything for you.
Right, exactly. I recently in my English class, we've been studying Holocaust works and such, and we just read a book called Night by Elie Wiesel, and we read a quote to introduce that unit to our class, and it said, indifference to evil is evil. Basically, if you see evil happening and you don't take action, if you don't do anything about it, it's just as evil as the person initiating and imposing those acts. So that definitely kind of sparked some action too. And then later in that unit actually, I took action because we had this thing called a Socratic seminar. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but
nice.
For the viewers, it's basically, at least in our school, we just have a circle and you kind of talk about the book, your findings, etc., and then the teacher interjects whenever they want to kind of bring up or suggest a point to talk about. But anyways, during that, we were talking about indifference to evil is evil, and I started breaking open the NDAA, GMO, TSA, the whole shebang. So that definitely got some people thinking, and I actually was specifically talking about the NDAA as soon as we were kind of concluding this seminar, and then the bell rang, and that was the end of the week on Friday. So I was kind of hoping that maybe some people pondered a little bit of what I was saying over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure you got some people thinking, man. That's one other thing I wanted to ask you. What is your reception among your peers and with your teachers? Obviously, I'd imagine that teachers having a student such as you who is doing so much work outside of school and trying to bring this message into your schoolwork, you know, how has that been receptive for like your parents, your family, friends? Are they interested in what you're doing, or is it that you're just young and idealistic and you'll get over that soon enough?
No, I think many of the people that I've shown have had a positive reception of what I'm doing. There are always, of course, as with anything in life, the haters who say, oh, you're just a stupid little kid, you can't do anything, whatever. But yeah, it's mostly been a positive reception. People really like what I'm doing. They're acting upon my activism, and it's really waking them up. And I actually showed my aunt some of my videos a while back, and ironically, she was actually a viewer of Alex Jones's, and she's been watching some of his stuff for a while now. So that's been kind of a whole new relationship we've been able to bring about and stuff. And then going back to what you said about doing work outside of school, I think a lot of people see the weekend as just some time to party, relax, hang out, you know, whatever. But I was just thinking about it the other day, and I made a quote about it, and I posted a picture on Facebook, and I sent it to you for this video too. It went something along the lines of that, like, many people see the weekend as a time to relax and escape from learning, but the weekend for me is a time to escape from school, like most people, but also like bring about this idea of learning on my own interests and not what the state-regulated dogma wants me to learn. So the weekend's definitely kind of like a chance for me to learn for myself in a nutshell.
That's good to see, man, because that's one other thing that I was curious about, because it's been 10 years since I was out of high school and, you know, went to school after that. But I know that the schools have become, at least here in the United States, become more and more militarized and dogmatic and just outright propaganda centers, especially here in the United States, and some would say even more so in Texas. So it's interesting to see, you know, you're in the midst of the belly of the beast, so to speak, and you get to still bring a message of truth and liberty to that environment, which I think is crucial, because as activists, one of the things that we've tried to figure out as we've started to get messages from 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who are graduating high school or who are getting to that point, and they're seeing which direction the world's going, and they're wondering what they can do about it. And this is what we need. We need other awake, aware minds out there who are looking for answers to see work like yours and to be inspired by it, because that's all it takes is for one person to plant that seed, and we're going to have a whole new generation of people who can do this, man. If you have time, we're going to go to a quick break, and we're going to come back. Stay tuned. This is the Conscious Resistance on Orion Talk Radio.
And awareness within the human mind.
We are witnessing the fall of the republic as tyrants try to make us all the subject.
Let's continue the conversation. Before we move on to some other topics, what is exactly your affiliation with Press for Truth? Do you work with Dan on a regular basis, or do you do in the field reports for them, or how's that working?
Well, what he recently established was this whole idea of Press for Truth Global, PFT Global, where he basically rounds up people across the world and they kind of make mini reports for him and everything. So it's not really a direct or kind of scheduled affiliation with him. But yeah, I have talked to him on many occasions. I recently did an interview with him, and I was kind of one of the first people to make one of the reports for him. So yeah, he's starting this whole idea of other people doing reports with him.
Nice. Yeah, Dan's a good guy, and I've done a little bit of work with him in the past too, so it's good to see that branching out. I wanted to get into a little bit more detail on some of the work that you have done, so everybody can check out Andrew's channel. It's at Teen Take, right, is the name of your channel? Yeah,
yes,
go to youtube.com/Teen Take, and you'll find all of Andrew's videos. One in particular that you've just recently uploaded is called iPencil. So let's hear a little bit about what got you into this idea and what it's about.
Yeah, so a while back, kind of a pretext to this whole video, this idea for this video, a while back, I've been affiliated with Adam versus the Man. I did an interview with him a while back, but anyways, he kind of got me hooked on this whole idea of voluntarism, basically having voluntary affairs in society and just living by that philosophy in general for your life and engaging in everything voluntarily. So he kind of got me turned on to that idea, and recently I ordered a book on Amazon called Everything Voluntary, and that is just basically a compilation of kind of probably like 50 of the best essays on voluntarism relating from politics to parenting to the economy and everything. And I read this one essay in there, and it was actually titled, obviously, iPencil, and it was by Leonard E. Reed, and I was inspired by that essay to make this video. And kind of the whole concept behind it is that there's no one mastermind that necessarily manipulates all these actions to make a simple thing such as a pencil, but there are these millions and hundreds of millions of know-hows throughout the world that know simple little incremental steps to making this pencil. And it kind of just says that, like, for example, if government were non-existent, if we were faced with anarchy, it would, people think like the mail would be impossible to deliver, but not ironically, but people would have this notion of spontaneous cooperation, and if it was a necessary facet in society to deliver mail for communication, then it would be able to happen through people spontaneously cooperating to form all these connections and networks of know-hows to do so.
Exactly, the market would work it out, and this is something that I'm glad to see you exploring here, because having conversations with as nicely as I can say it, we'll call them statists, or those who prefer government means, they seem to lack a genuine understanding of human potential, human drive to live and to move forward. And I really, really just don't see a situation where tomorrow, let's use your example, tomorrow if they announce that they're no longer going to be distributing mail across the country or throughout the world, that, for one, the internet is here, but beyond that, people would find the means to communicate and to get information, even if that meant creating our own, mailing service. And that really is a result of the market. That's a result of having a voluntary society and not having a monopoly, not having a one-size-fits-all solution. And it is important for people to recognize, not only just with the pencil aspect that you mentioned here, but one example that I often give where there does seem to be a disconnect and an misunderstanding of how things come together is gardening, growing your own food. That there's, we have grocery stores on every corner that are filled to the ceiling with all kinds of produce that people assume just magically appear there, and there's no understanding of what it takes. How many people have to have their hand for this, again, spontaneous cooperation. And currently we have a lot of outside influence through companies like Monsanto and that whole monopoly, but still at the base of it, it takes individuals to decide, hey, I'm hungry and I want food, so I'm going to go grow it. And now we've sort of relinquished our power and our ability over our own lives and given that over to others, whether it's by allowing people to make our furniture, to make our clothes, to grow our food, or just by being unaware of the processes themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. Recently, speaking of gardening, I saw this TED Talk, about this guy in southern LA, I believe, and he grows his own food and stuff. He took advantage of these kind of isolated curbs and all these desolated or abandoned parking lots and stuff, and he started growing his own crops there and stuff. And he said, if anybody goes by, just take the food, whatever you want and stuff. And then of course the state comes and says, oh, you can't put this stuff here and everything. So it's just, if you had a free market, things would be so much better. People wouldn't be starving. They could take food as they wish with voluntary cooperation between people and making their own networks. But the state wants to have a monopoly over everything. They want to have centralized power, and it's just so disappointing to see how humanity is being degraded due to this want and thirst for power.
That's exactly right. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left in this segment. I might have you on for one more if we don't have time, because there's a couple other things I wanted to pick your brain about. One of the things we'll get into in a minute, but I saw another video of yours actually touched on chemtrails, geoengineering, and cloud seeding, which is a topic that I do talk about. And I'm curious as to see if you have noticed this apparent divide and split between, say, maybe some of the Alex Jones crowd and those who recognize different global conspiracies as crimes of the state, and in others who are aware of the problems of the state but want nothing to do with so-called conspiracies. Have you come across any of this?
Well, I definitely can't stand how as soon as you decide to question an authoritarian precept that you're automatically regarded as some crazed conspiracy kook, because it doesn't give any regard for people's thought, and it just automatically makes them seem like imbeciles as portrayed by the media and everything. But yeah, I mean, not everyone, I shouldn't say that, but I think Alex Jones does fearmonger a little bit and say, oh, it must be poison that the government is implementing it through cloud seeding and such. But I do think that there is some validity in the whole chemtrail notion, because in one of my videos I mentioned this, obviously, as you said, and in Canada, in Ottawa, I believe, Ontario, there was this consistent chemtrail spraying Ontario, and all these people got so sick due to this certain chemical that was leaking into their water, and all these people had these terrible sicknesses and diseases. So whatever it is that they're doing, it's definitely not good, and there is Air Force documentation saying that geoengineering is possible. There are governmental scientists at HARP doing studies and stuff. So there's obviously some type of underlying motive behind this whole cloud seeding and geoengineering idea.
Yeah, definitely, I would say so. And I agree with you on the whole fear-mongering aspect. Sometimes good things that Alex Jones talks about get pushed to the side because there's too much of a fear aspect, and many people don't want to go beyond that. We've only got a couple minutes left. I want you to the listening audience, to the other 15-year-olds out there, to the kids younger than you, and maybe even people way older than you, any advice you got on taking action, and be sure to let everybody know where they can find all your work.
What I would recommend to take action is watch the mainstream media for a few hours, not too long, because you don't want to be brainwashed, and just look at all of the subtle little ways that they can manipulate your mind, and just look at every aspect of society and search for an underlying motive in everything, because the superficial thing that you see is not the true way it should be portrayed, because there are always underlying motives. There are always ulterior motives which people are trying to engage in, and just what you see with your eyes isn't the full picture. So that's pretty much the advice that I would give. Other than that, just search GMO, NDAA, TSA, search anything that you find on my channel at youtube.com/teamtake and also facebook.com/teamtake. Look through everything there and research it yourself. You don't have to believe me. I don't want you to believe me. Research it yourself, educate yourself, and you will live a much better life and awaken many other people and break the bondage that mentally enslaves you.
That's 100% right, man. We can't be taking anybody's word for things out there. Thank you, Andrew, for coming and talking today. Continue to do what you do, man, and we will stay in touch.
Thanks so much.
That was Andrew Demeter of Team Take. He's a correspondent with Press for Truth Global. Check out pressfortruth.ca, and as he said, facebook.com/teamtake, youtube.com/teamtake. Check out his work. It's very inspiring to see somebody well, anybody of any age take action, you know, but it's even more special when you see the minds of the young are ready to advance our species.